Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and this is your host, Sir Stephen Topham Hatt the Third at your service. Now, a lot of you are now asking big questions. Now, big questions, and I'm not saying in any certain aspect of it. Let me put it in perspective and blunt. A video has been published that was nearly killed off the whole Thomas franchise. Now, the reason this is not supposed to happen at all because it's a time loop. Now, from a from a private contact to one private contact to mine and his, this individual has a lot more than he has done. Homework wise, everything else. Now, I've been totally informed by this private contact, obviously. Regardless that I'm a middle part and on return of the hat, of course, which is definitely a go ahead. Um, Things are happening in reality that are not happening in fiction. Now, the reason this is possible to tell you now is because certain little somebody who I will name now, called the Thomas Fairest, which is basically his video is called Why This Bible Destroyed Thomas, and we've got 5,000 subscribers special. I said it's a load of bullshit, in my opinion, and because a lot of it doesn't make sense, number one, and number two, it says that every time this has happened in '03, updated in '07, updated in '10, 12, 15, 16, 17, and 18, depending on how much. Basically, a Bible that destroyed Thomas and Friends itself. But I say it's a load of bullshit because we're living it as we speak. History has a habit of repeating itself, which is what I had to deal with. Alright? A lot of people said they don't know who the Sir Topham Hatt's name is originally is. Number one, which is a load of BS. I said, look, they caused me to tell you, right? In reality, I do not treat my engines like children, for starters. I'm really useful, yes. But do you ever see me play around with my engines? No. Now, the reason that is because I'm playing by the rules of what has been set in stone. Now, the reason that is because I know my history and I know my knowledge. Thomas and Friends for over a decade now, over a decade I would say, more than that, has also been giving people the chance to be linked up with it, totally from the bottom up. Now, from what I'm reading here, is an old-fashioned boss, which is true. His rule is never questioned, even by the Diesel team, obviously. All engines address him as Sir and never disrespect him. Now, what's happened to that little timeline script? Now, in reality of this, of all this franchise, is that no one has respected me ever since I've been on live and online and updated, and quite honestly, my grandfather did all this hard work, plus my ancestor on top of that, right? Predicted something of the past, uh, right? And it actually happened in the future. Now, the only thing I'm going to say to you all, is grow up and be, don't be ungrateful for what you got, because in the day, you might end up with a right gunner against your head, which you don't need. Because this is not, if you saw what I'm saying and understanding and all of that, they thought my ancestors up like these type of children, la 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 la, going down the line. I'm gonna make it quite clear that Thomas and Friends is not based on the Bible at all. The only reason that we have come done the way we do is because we follow a chain of command. A chain of command works from ancestor to descendant. Now work that out and work it backwards and go backwards to where it originally started. Right? So you got an ancestor, a descendant, a descendant, a descendant. Each descendant has its own unique personality. Right? And I'm not being rude. I'm not a child. However, nor am I saying that my engines are children, because they're not. I, I do apologise, but I want people to understand I have a chain of command to follow. If I don't follow it, things will go terribly wrong, right? So if you want to tell Thomas Ferris, who is actually the person who did this video, um, well, these private contacts that I'm trying to safeguard right now are the most top priority on their list, right? I don't like troublemakers, and I don't like this, and I don't like that, simple as. And regardless that we have to follow chain of command, we still have to follow the prophecy that was given by the Church of Sodor, which is basically what my private contact was stating at 1 minute, and it's also stating that we have to follow the rules and regulations around here. This is not a game, and nor my engines are actually children at all. You see, for the engines to exceed, you have to have their descendants as well. This is how the chain of command actually physically works. So, chain of command is very, very complicated. We have to repeat everything that's happened before. Not the easiest route to go down the line, don't get me wrong, but in reality it is, but it's not fiction, it's reality. And people keep seeing it as a reality fictional type job. I said Thomas the Ferris doesn't know what he's talking about. And regardless he thinks he's got this information and he's got his PDF and all of that, half the time it doesn't always make sense. And sometimes, a lot of people say, okay, everybody's calling me a douchebag and whatever. No, I'm Sir Stephen Topham the third, and I always have been. But there are people out there who could think they could get more subscribers by getting more hits. But I'm not after hits or subscribers as much. But when you think about the legacy we have and the destiny that I have to follow, there's one thing that outwits all YouTubers around the globe, right? It's that the facts are realistic. I only get told in one episode, but that's because certain people know that I have health issues, but that's not the case. The problem is there's always two hats on the field, right? And the way they describe my lady hat now, right, is a load of BS to a point, right? So a lot of these people think, what can we do about it? I said, you cannot do nothing much. I said, you're not children, you're pure adults. We all adults. When we get to a certain age limit, we learn these things over time. And with all that being said and done, what has become of it? And I said, the only reason why you guys need to grow up and learn a few things like this is because it helps the community, it helps the society, and it helps the world. The problem is the hacks will always be around, realistically. But in the day, if you did like Thomas and Friends, the classic and the CGI, just take a look at the way the story's been played in 4, then reverse it. A lot of the time it's just common knowledge. Anagrams are all in there. And then a lot of the actions that I'm doing right now is according to that timeline. And I've got to a point where people will say, oh, we don't believe you. And I said, yeah, well, it's all true and it's all facts and it's all there. But the thing is, there's one individual that's like to spoil it all. You're gonna get one bad egg in front of all the others. And I'm sitting here like doing nothing wrong, and that's what I'm doing. So realistically, when people come together, they solve the mystery. But you gotta help me out, not the YouTubers online, because they are new. They only sometimes when you watch a YouTube video, you think, "Oh, I like this." Boof. Well, by doing that, my private contact, who I cannot name, who did a brilliant series from showed all the early years and the modern years, which fills in my gap of my timeline. And this video that's been released is illegal, that has actually come out. I will actually would say it's not worth watching anyway. And I said, look, no, they said I'm old fashioned. Well, I'm not totally old fashioned at all. I can work with modern day and the old ways as much as it is the new ways. So that should tell you a little something about me. Using the playground for an analogy that Sir Topham is an adult, which is true, but in the end of the day, that I do not treat my children, my angels, as children, because they all, in all plain eyesight, a lot of people don't get it. You see, one minute, a lot of Americans out there, I'm not saying they're all being disgraceful, but they're not realizing that can you accept that there's a reality side to this? There's a reality and fiction, and there's two sides to this, a two-sided coin. So, regardless to everything that's all been set in, you know, I said, I'm playing the story out the way it does. Every generation, my family will have to go through all of this. And this is not a game. It's not a race. But yeah, it's a race against time. But you see, has people worked out yet the reason why I was born on the date that my ancestor predicted? With my grandfather being the first back controller, Sir Topham had the first. Think about it, guys. You know, it's all pure logic. And and when I was like reading this through, and I said, "You gotta be kidding!" I do it in privacy. I don't do it in public. I just gotta be myself when I'm out and about. Thomas and Friends writers don't always see the black and white picture they see in reality. I'm not a kid. I'm an adult. But none of my angels are pure kids anyway. They're adults that grow up as much as like kids do, and get married, have kids, have their own siblings and son and daughters, etc., and bring down the chain of command down. So it goes down by chain of command. Thank you very much.